we are so fortunate to have joining with us just a legend in the industry, Mr. Piper, Carr. Piper, it is so good to have you with us.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having us tonight.
Man, it is so good to have you here. Listen, there's a French philosopher, Bernard Pivot, that had the famous 10 questions that he would always ask every single person he interviewed. And at the Privacy Co-op, we don't have the budget for all 10, so we've got a modified and heavily redacted version. It's 4.5 questions. That's all we could afford. So I'm just going to hit them real quick. Star Trek or Star Wars?
It's really a difficult toss-up because Captain Kirk is such a legend. But to celebrate Joseph Campbell's power of myth, I'm going to have to go with Star Wars because, we all want to feel the Force. And
that's a great answer.
With a connected universe.
Awesome. What is your favorite number?
00.
00. That's a good one. I like that. What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
I got a degree in music, so rather than being a consultant, I'd like to be any type of professional musician, to quote John Cusack in High Fidelity.
That's good. Wow, that's something else that connects you and me right there. That's fantastic. What is your favorite flavor?
Vanilla. I'm a management consultant, so I want to keep it as bland as possible. Some people really, it's the number one flavor in the world. So can't be bland for everybody. So now here's the half question. We're going to run out of money halfway through it. So who would you like to? Who would I like to?
Yeah.
Why?
That's just the end of the question. We can't ask the rest of it till the second guest.
Oh, geez. I think it'd have to be the entire band, U2.
Fantastic. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so listen, folks that are tuning in right now, Oxford Computer Group, Intel, AT&T, wow, some heavy hitters that Piper you've been with. But the part that really gets interesting when I look through all the things that you've done, kinetic robotics, right? Integrated advertising, AR and VR before they were cool, facial recognition, working with Citizen, where you're bringing all of that together into design and business strategy. You were bought out by Ernst & Young. That's incredible. And, wow, now you're heading up Dojo, right, with your partners.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting new transition. After our whole team kind of grew up, kind of talking about data and privacy and security, helping develop a lot in the internet. We supported Bill Gates while he was running his own private media firm and learning how to digitize media and bring that to the world. And then our team spent many years in telecommunications, thinking about all the different ways network could be used to connect not just mobile phones, but every type of device. And then my team helped, after the acquisition by Ernst & Young, bring innovation to all forms of management consulting. And we won a range of awards for that approach. And here at Dojo, we're looking at taking it the step further by helping grow strategies into the next era.
Wow, it's just tremendous. There's very few people that are as positioned as well as you are on some of the topics we're talking about tonight. We're really fortunate to have you and our next guest as well. But where is IoT taking us?
Well, thanks for asking, Jay. I think as we talk about data and privacy, we're moving into a space where literally everything's connected to everything else. It was phenomenal that, as we were talking about earlier, that the internet age allowed us to work on computers the way that we would view media on a television or a radio or on a personal device, and be able to stream and collaborate and do everything in mobile and social that we saw, and then obviously transition that to mobile phones. But when we talk about IoT, folks are just starting to see the tip of the iceberg of being able to use a mobile device or voice commands or other new types of computing behavior to control your car, control your home, control your health, interact with safety, whether it be with elder loved ones or your children. And this is a new type of behavior that not only allows us to use network and data in new ways, but I'm sure, as you guys know at the Privacy Co-op, opens up a conversation around who owns that data and how we keep that data safe for folks.
Yeah, that's a really great touch point. It's the actors that are acting upon these devices that's generating the data. Just like you said, you're a musician, so you have a musician singing into a microphone. They've written the song themselves. They go into the studio and record it. Unless they have a contract in place before that, the studio doesn't own that song. It's the artist that's generating that data, that information, that owns the rights to it, right? Generally speaking. So we're kind of living in that same world right now with all of these devices around, but I don't think people realize, that they have a claim and ownership to the data that's being generated.
Well, that's absolutely right. As we were kind of literally inventing ways to digitize media and catalog media in real time, almost like putting the wheels on a car as you're racing it. One of the biggest things to describe to folks who are creating professional photographers and professional videographers and people who wrote music that went into advertising and documentaries and other created works, a copyright is endemic. It's just, your right to work you create. Well, we didn't used to create a bunch of data before. Now we throw off data everywhere we go just by carrying our cell phone around. We throw off likenesses of ourselves when we're captured with video or still images anytime someone takes a picture of us. So with data that we're creating inadvertently, to your point, Jay, we're also creating rights management and ownership of data and those adjacent rights in ways that were never before even a reality. We're creating as much data every 6 months now as we've created in the entirety of human history, and that will start to have a half-life of 3 months, and then maybe even 1 day, where we're creating so much data through using IoT devices or cell phones and a full 5G LTE connected network. We don't even have automated cars yet. And when we network cars completely, we're throwing off terabytes of data per car per month that isn't even available now running over a network or being stored in the cloud. When we think about medical devices, connected watches, a connected house where you're ringing the doorbell and tracking folks delivering items to your house that you might buy over an e-commerce site, or just that are being delivered to you through other means, an Uber Eats or a other food delivery service. We're looking at DoorDash, others. We have a tremendous amount of data being created that isn't even on the radar now, but that will be this year and certainly in the coming years.
Well, now, as you just listed a lot of different devices, and my experience has been that this has been an evolution where, the early days of the Internet of Things, it was iffy if your doorknob would unlock when you got home, but they're getting better and better. What does our audience need to know about, I guess it's called Industry 4.0, or some people call it IIoT or IoT 4.0. What does our audience need to know about that?
Well, in addition to everything being connected through an elaborate, a more elaborate network, and all the devices that are coming out that we connect to that network. For example, we had previously talked about just the internet, and then mobile phones running data. And then we just a second ago talked about how that phone and computer is now a watch or a car or a medical device, or all these other things we connect, and the data that's being part of that. The thing that we need to start to think about, in addition to all the data that we're throwing off and who owns it, is what the implications, good or bad, for both computer and enterprises look like. We are creating data that's owned by other folks that we're not even aware of. If we go out to some of the brands and companies that we love the most and get a Amazon Alexa, when we talk into that Alexa, the end user license agreement, we were talking about rights and IP and images earlier, but we sign a EULA, an end user license agreement, to use that new consumer device. When you talk into any of these voice activated tools, they can be listening to you whether you're engaged with them or not, and archiving your voice recognition back into the cloud and using that information to sell you a better product, or maybe even mash that up with other folks who are talking into the cloud. And that can have unintended effects. You might not want to consent to allowing a company to do that, no matter how friendly that brand is or how much you trust them. The same is true as some of these great services that we're out there willingly paying for, 23andMe, Ancestry.com, and the like. These folks are actually testing our core genetics and storing our genetics information individually and collectively in the cloud. When you start to put predictive analytics against all of that data, again, there's unintended consequences. We can find that people from a certain ethnicity or with a certain ethnic or multicultural mashup are more predispositioned to certain health and wellness trends, or they can take information from your family and see if there's genetic implications as to whether or not you might have diabetes or Alzheimer's or the like. Your health insurance records get a hold of that, and that might change your actuarial status, where you pay more or less insurance, and so on and so forth. So these are certainly not just possible. They're in-flight types of questions that we need to confront and have conversations around, for not only data and privacy, but Jay, you and I were talking earlier about ethics. Not only do we have conversations to have around, can we do certain things with identity and data, but we have to have conversations around, should we do different things with identity and data based on whether or not those products or services or actions are ethical.
And the pressures are increasing on the C-suite of most companies. We can't seem to think of a single industry where they're not feeling pressure to monetize secondary uses of data, right? It doesn't matter whether you're in forestry or whether you're in health and human services, or if you're in travel and leisure, entertainment. Every single industry is feeling that squeeze. So, what are some ways that the C-suite might be able to approach this? Are there things that are on their minds to make sure that they're not just following regulations, but they're also ethically treating data the right way?
Right. And so from a planning point of view, we've all heard of GDPR and other data implications that are going to have regulatory impact on every industry, and there will be geographic nuances in how that's administered. And as we become an increasingly global society, there are C-suite folks who are going to have to look not only across United States and North America, but how their global organization adheres to those regulatory considerations on a geographic and global scale. But it goes beyond GDPR. As we look at some of these edge cases that we talked about, think about all your healthcare data that's going to be flowing across the cloud and network in a way that has to adhere to HIPAA compliance standards, right? Let's think about some of the telecommunications laws that you and I are most familiar with, where we have amber and silver alerts. What if we now all of a sudden have alerts where we have to make folks aware of food safety, where we now know there might be contaminated food in the supply chain that we didn't have any transparency or visibility into, but now we do. The minute you have data and network colliding, we might have regulatory considerations that occur that are beyond our wildest imagination, and that has an impact to our business. It costs any business money to have to comply with new regulations, but it also has impact on the end user and how they interact with each brand. If customers, for example, know that a major retailer, whoever that might be, has possession of data that can keep them healthier and safer, they're going to expect that major brand or conglomerate to communicate to them in a transparent way, but also a way that is desirable from a user experience perspective. So
go ahead.
Well, the message to the C-suite is to not only think about operations and go to market and business as usual, but how data factors into how you're running your business, not only from a regulatory point of view, but from a growth strategy point of view. the two-edged sides of the sword are not only do you have to adhere to the sort of stuff that Privacy Co-op is helping folks be more aware of from a compliance standpoint, but with the responsibility of compliance, there's also opportunities. The more data transparency you have with your end user or your enterprise partner, the more you can create a better experience, help them get educated more on how you can collaborate with them more effectively. And as you look more at how you understand the customer in a more meaningful way with, you know, the network and cloud we've been talking about, we can help. All organizations have an opportunity to bring their costs down through more optimization, but bring their customer service up by learning more about that customer in real time and being able to address that through better products and services that they use data for, as long as it meets that regulatory compliance.
That's the key, right? It's got to be a dialogue between the C-suite and their customers, right? And they have to have the value. They got to see it. But if it's there, I think the right things will happen. And we'll see some of these great innovations come forward. Piper, it has been super having you on the show. Really appreciate you dropping by.
And it's such a great show. We always tune into it. And we want to give you and the Privacy Co-op a huge shout out for being great partners of ours, and for helping everyone who tunes in every week to learn more about data privacy and opportunities surrounding it.
Thanks for the plug. Talk to you soon.
Bye.